The last transmission from Mars arrived at 0300 hours. It was only 6 words long. Colony fallen. God help us all. Admiral Nadia Okonkwo read the message 3 times. Each time, it felt like a knife sliding between her ribs. Mars had held for 8 months. 3 million people had lived there. Now they were either dead or in chains. She was 62 years old. She had fought in 4 wars. She had buried her daughter in the first wave of the Valori invasion. Nothing had prepared her for this moment. The war room of the carrier last stand was quiet. Her officers stood around the holographic display showing Earth and the enemy fleet surrounding it. The numbers were simple. 47 human ships remained. The Valori had over 300. How long until they attack? Okonkwo asked. Lieutenant Ben Hadley, her young communications officer, checked his screens. Their commander broadcast a message 1 hour ago. He gave us until sunrise to surrender. If we refuse, they will begin the final assault. What were his exact words? Ben swallowed hard. He said humans are weak creatures fit only for labor. He said resistance is foolish. He said we should accept our place in the Dominion. Okonkwo felt something cold settle in her chest. Not fear, something older. Something that had kept humans alive through ice ages and plagues and world wars. Show me their commander, she said. The hologram changed. A Valori appeared. Commander Sithrak was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 eyes that glowed faint yellow. His species had conquered 100 worlds. They had never lost a war. Primitive creatures, Sithrak said in the recording. Your weapons are crude. Your ships are slow. Your bodies are fragile. You have no hope. Surrender now, and some of you will live to serve. Fight, and you will watch your world burn. The recording ended. Ben looked at his admiral. He was 24 years old. He had joined the fleet believing humanity would win. Now he was not sure humanity would survive the week. Admiral, he said quietly, the Defense Council is waiting for your recommendation. Some of them want to surrender. They say it might save civilian lives. Okonkwo walked to the window. Below her, Earth turned slowly in the darkness. She could see the lights of cities under protective shields. Billions of people were down there, waiting to learn if they would live or die. Do you know what the Valori do to conquered species? She asked. They use them as workers. Slaves. Not just slaves. They break them. They take their children and raise them to believe they were always meant to serve. Within 3 generations, the conquered species forgets it was ever free. She turned to face him. Is that what you want for your children, Lieutenant? For their children? No, I'll admit it. Neither do I. She walked back to the holographic display. Her fingers moved across the controls. She pulled up a file marked with the highest security clearance. What is that? Ben asked. Project Homecoming. 200 years ago, we sent colony ships to the edge of known space. They were meant to ensure human survival if Earth ever fell. We lost contact with them after the first 50 years. We assumed they died, but they did not. We do not know. We have coordinates. We have a communication frequency. We have never used it because we never needed to. She paused. Until now. Ben stared at her. You want to send a distress call to people who might not exist. I want to send a message to family we forgot we had. If they are out there, they will hear us. If they are not, we lose nothing. She typed the message herself. It was simple. Earth is dying. The enemy will destroy us by morning. If any human hears this, come home. She pressed send. The signal raced outward at faster than light speed, aimed at coordinates so distant they existed only in old records. Within minutes, the Valori detected it. Commander Sithrak's face appeared on the screen, laughing. How touching. The dying creature cries out to empty space. Who do you think will hear you? What do you think will come? Okonkwo did not answer him. She simply cut the transmission. Ben stood beside her as the hours passed. Outside, the Valori fleet moved into attack formation. Human ships powered up their weapons, knowing they would not survive the battle. At T0400 hours, Ben brought Okonkwo a cup of water. Her hands were steady as she drank it. Do you think anyone heard us? He asked. I do not know. Do you think they will come? She set down the cup. I think humans have always found each other in the dark. I think that is why we are still here. Across the fleet, captains gave final speeches. Soldiers wrote letters to families they might never see again. On Earth, people stood on rooftops and watched the sky, waiting for the end. The Shanghai shelter. A father named David held his daughter Lily close. She was 6 years old. She asked him if the bad aliens would hurt them. No, he said. Someone will come. Someone always comes. He did not believe it, but he wanted her to have hope for a few more hours. The clock moved toward dawn, and somewhere, far beyond the edge of known space, a signal arrived at a station that had waited 200 years for this moment. The message was received. The answer was already on its way. Kepler Station Omega had not received a transmission from Earth in 200 years. Most people who lived there had stopped believing Earth was real, that it was just a story. A blue planet far away where their ancestors had been born. A place in old recordings where people walked under open skies and swam in water that stretched to the horizon. Beautiful. Impossible. Gone. Then the signal came. General A.O. Diallo was in the training facility when his communicator buzzed. He was watching young soldiers run combat drills. They moved fast, faster than any human from the old recordings could move. Their bodies were different now. 200 years on a world with gravity twice as strong as Earth had changed them. He answered the call. General, you need to come to the communication center. Now, he found a room in chaos. Technicians were running between stations. Dr. Samuel Webb, the chief scientist, stood frozen in front of a screen, his face pale. What is happening? Diallo asked. Webb turned to him. We received a message. From Earth. Diallo felt his heart stop. That is not possible. I have checked it 17 times. The frequency matches old records. The encryption is correct. It is real. Webb stepped aside so Diallo could read the screen. The message was short. Earth is dying. The enemy will destroy us by morning. If any human hears this, come home. Diallo read it 3 times. Then he sat down heavily in the nearest chair. How bad is it? He asked. I pulled what information I could from the signal data. A species called the Valori has invaded. Earth has been fighting for almost a year. They are losing. Badly. How many ships does Earth have left? Less than 50. The enemy has over 300. Diallo closed his eyes. He had never seen Earth. His great-great-grandparents had left on a colony ship when the journey took decades. They had landed on this harsh world and built a new civilization from nothing. They had survived storms and radiation and predators that would have killed softer humans. They had grown strong, and now Earth needed them. He stood up. Call an emergency meeting of the council. Every member. 1 hour. The council chamber was full. 12 leaders sat around a curved table. Some were military, some were civilian. All of them had the thick bones and dense muscles that marked Omega humans. Diallo played the message for them. When it finished, silence filled the room. Counselor Ada, an elderly woman who led the agricultural sector, spoke first. Earth abandoned us. They sent our ancestors into the void and never followed. They forgot we existed. They were not able to follow, Diallo said. The technology for reliable contact did not exist then, and yet they remembered us now, when they need our help. Captain Rosa Brennan sat at the far end of the table. She was 40 years old, with dark hair cut short and scars on her hand from a dozen battles. She commanded the assault carrier Distant Thunder. So what, she said. They remembered us when they needed help. That is when family calls each other. When things are bad, they are not our family. Another counselor argued. We have never met them. We share ancestors, nothing more. Brennan leaned forward. We share blood. We share history. We share the same DNA that made us survivors on this rock. Earth humans and Omega humans are the same species. Are we? Dr. Webb spoke up. Our bone density is 40% higher than Earth humans. Our reflexes are twice as fast. We can survive G-forces that would kill them. We have been evolving separately for 2 centuries. Then we are their stronger cousins, Brennan said. And our weaker cousins are about to die. The debate continued for an hour. Voices rose. Fists hit tables. Some counselors argued that Omega should stay hidden. The Valori did not know they existed. Why reveal themselves for a planet they had never seen? Others argued that hiding was cowardice, that humanity was one family, no matter how far apart they lived, that if Omega let Earth die, they would lose something more important than safety. They would lose their souls. Finally, Diallo called for a vote. The count was 6-5. One counselor remained. Old Counselor Ada, who had spoken against helping, looked at the faces around her. She thought about her grandchildren. She thought about what she would want strangers to do if her world was burning. "We go," she said quietly. "We help our family." The vote passed 7-5. Diallo stood. "The Omega fleet will depart in 6 hours. 89 ships. Every soldier who volunteers. We will reach Earth in 14 hours at maximum speed." Rosa Brennan was already moving toward the door. "I will have Distant Thunder ready in 4 hours." "Captain," Diallo called after her. "Earth humans have never seen what we have become. They may fear us." Brennan smiled. It was not a gentle smile. "Good, because the Valori are about to fear us a lot more." She walked out to prepare her ship. Across the station, alarms sounded. Soldiers grabbed their gear. Families said goodbye. Pilots ran to their fighters in the hangar bay. Rosa Brennan climbed into her command chair and looked at her crew. They were strong. They were ready. They had trained their whole lives for a fight that mattered. "Listen up," she said over the intercom. "Earth needs us. Our family needs us. We're going to show the galaxy what humans become when you leave us alone long enough. We're going to show them what we do to anyone who threatens our own." The engines roared to life, one by one. 89 ships rose from the station and pointed themselves toward a blue planet they had only seen in dreams. Earth had called, and Earth's children were coming home. Somewhere in Shanghai, a little girl asked her father why the lights had gone out. David held Lily close in the underground shelter. Around them, hundreds of families sat in darkness. The city above had cut all power to save energy for the shields. No one knew if the shields would hold through tomorrow. "We are saving electricity," David said. "So the protective walls stay strong. Will the bad aliens come through the walls?" "No, sweetheart. The walls will keep us safe." He did not believe his own words. But Lily was 6 years old. She deserved a few more hours of hope. Across the world, billions of people waited in similar shelters. In New York and Lagos and Mumbai and Sao Paulo, families huddled together. Children asked questions their parents could not answer. Old people remembered times before the war when the sky was not full of enemy ships. Above them all, the Valori fleet hung in orbit like a crown of death. On the last stand, Admiral Okonkwo walked through the corridors of her ship. She stopped at every station. She spoke to every crew member she passed. A young engineer named Priya was working on a damaged console. Her hands were shaking. "Admiral," she said, "I joined the fleet because I believed we would win. I believe humanity always finds a way. And now I am scared." Okonkwo put a hand on her shoulder. "Being scared is not weakness. Being scared and still doing your job is courage. You're still here. That means you're still fighting." Priya nodded slowly. "Yes, Admiral." Okonkwo continued her walk. She found Lieutenant Ben Hadley in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. "Did you send your message?" she asked. "To my mother on the lunar station." "Yes." He paused. "I told her I loved her. I told her I was proud to serve." "Good words. Are they true words, Admiral? Should we be proud? We are about to lose." Okonkwo stood beside him. The Valori ships were visible in the distance, thousands of lights moving in perfect formation. "Let me tell you something about humans," she said. "We have been fighting impossible odds since we lived in caves. We fought predators bigger than us. We fought diseases we cannot see. We fought each other, which was the stupidest fight of all. And we kept going, but we had hope then. We had a chance. Did we? When the ice ages came, did our ancestors know they would survive? When the plagues killed half of everyone alive, did the survivors know the species would continue?" She shook her head. They did not know. They just refused to stop. Ben was quiet for a long moment. "You really think someone heard our message? I think that 200 years ago, we sent our children into the dark. I think those children survived. I think they grew. And I think when family calls, family answers." She left him there and return to the bridge. The T-2200 hours. Commander Sithrak broadcast his final warning to Earth. Humans. His voice echoed across every channel. Your time is over. At dawn, my fleet will descend. Your cities will burn. Your people will serve the Dominion. This is the fate of all weak species. Accept it. No one on Earth responded to him. Instead, something else happened. In Tokyo, someone lit a candle in their window. Then their neighbor did the same. Then the next house. And the next street. And the next district. Within an hour, the darkness of Earth cities was broken by millions of tiny flames. Candles in windows. Torches on rooftops. Lights that said, "We are still here. We are not afraid. We will not kneel." From orbit, the Valori watched the planet glow with defiance. Commander Sithrak stared at his screens with 4 unblinking eyes. His science officer stood beside him. "What are they doing?" Sithrak asked. "It appears to be a symbolic gesture, Commander. They are signaling resistance." Resistance? They have 47 ships. We have 300. What resistance can they offer? Unknown, Commander. But they are not surrendering. Sithrak felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Not fear, but uncertainty. He had conquered species that begged for mercy. Species that betrayed their own leaders for a chance to live. Species that broke before the battle even began. Humans were doing none of these things. They were lighting candles in the dark. In the Shanghai shelter, Lily tugged on her father's sleeve. "Daddy, can we light a candle too?" David looked around. Someone had passed out small candles to everyone in the shelter. Hundreds of tiny flames were flickering to life. "Yes," he said, "we can." He lit the candle and held it with his daughter. The flame danced between them, small but stubborn. "See," Lily said, "now the dark is not so scary." David hugged her tight. "No," he whispered, "it is not." At 0400 hours, Lieutenant Ben Hadley's console suddenly lit up that he stared at the readings. Then he checked them again. Then he ran to find the Admiral. "Something is coming," he said, breathless. "Something big, emerging from faster-than-light travel, right at the edge of the system." Okonkwo's heart pounded. "How many ships?" Ben looked at his data. His hands were shaking, but this time not from fear. 89, he said. 89 ships, and they are broadcasting on our frequency. The message was simple. It was beautiful. It was everything. "Earth, hold on. Your family is here." Commander Sithrak had conquered 11 worlds. He had destroyed fleets 3 times the size of his own. He had never been surprised in battle. Until now. "Report," he demanded. "Where are those ships?" His sensor officer's 4 eyes blinked rapidly at the screens. "Unknown design, Commander. Smaller than our vessels. Faster. Much faster. They are approaching at speeds we did not think possible for ships of that size." "Where do they come from?" The signal origin suggests they traveled from beyond charted space. Distance approximately 200 light-years. Sithrak leaned forward. 200 light-years? No species maintains colonies that far from their homeworld. The resources required would be impossible. And yet, Commander, they are here. On the last stand, Admiral Okonkwo watched the new fleet approach. Her communications officer was crying. Her weapons officer was laughing. She felt both emotions at once. "Open a channel," she said. "Let me speak to them." The screen flickered. A face appeared. Human but different. The jaw was stronger. The eyes were sharper. The shoulders were broader than any human Okonkwo had ever seen. "I am General A.O. Diallo of the Omega Fleet," the man said. "We received your message. We came as fast as we could." Okonkwo's voice cracked. "You came. You actually came. Of course we came. You are family. We thought you were dead. We thought the colony ships failed." Diallo smiled. It was a fierce smile, full of teeth. "We did not fail. We survived. We grew. And now we are here to help our family survive too." Behind him, Okonkwo could see the bridge of his ship. The crew moved with speed and precision that seemed almost impossible. They were human, but they were also something more. "What happened to you?" she asked. 200 years on a high-gravity world. Our bones grew denser. Our muscles grew stronger. Our reflexes became faster. We adapted. His smile widened. "The Valori have no idea what they are about to face." The battle began at dawn. The Valori fleet moved forward in perfect formation, confident in their numbers. 300 ships against 47. The math was simple. Then the Omega fleet hit them from the side. Captain Rosa Brennan led the first wave. Her ship, Distant Thunder, cut through Valori formations like a blade through paper. Her pilots flew patterns that the enemy computers calculated as impossible. They pulled turns that would kill normal humans. They pushed their ships past every known limit. "All wings, stay with me," Brennan called over the radio. "Show them what we can do." Her fighters swarmed a Valori cruiser. They moved so fast the enemy guns could not track them. Within minutes, the cruiser was burning. Commander Sithrak watched in disbelief. "They are flying inside our firing solutions," his weapons officer reported. "We cannot hit them. They are too fast. Impossible. No biological creature can survive those maneuvers." "They are surviving them, Commander." Sithrak grabbed his communicator. "All ships, focus fire on the new arrivals. Destroy them first." The Valori fleet turned its attention to the Omega ships. Thousands of weapons fired at once. The space around the human fleet filled with energy and death. The Omega ships danced through it. They spun and rolled and dove in ways that made no sense. Ways that should have torn their crews apart. Ways that required reflexes faster than the Valori had ever seen. That a Valori science officer ran to Commander Sithrak with a scanner report. "Commander, I have analyzed their ships. The crew inside, their bodies are different. Denser, stronger. They can withstand forces that would kill normal humans." "What does that mean?" "It means they can fly faster, turn harder, fight longer. They are human, Commander, but they are not the same humans we have been fighting." Sithrak felt cold fear in his chest. Where did these creatures come from? The same place as the others. Earth. They are all human. On the last stand, Admiral Okonkwo gave her own orders. "All Earth ships, support the Omega fleet. Cover their flanks. Do not let the enemy surround them." Her 47 ships moved forward. They were slower than the Omega vessels. Weaker, but they were not helpless. They fired their weapons and drew enemy attention and created openings for their stronger cousins to exploit. For the first time in almost a year, humans were winning. The Valori formation cracked. Ships burned. Commanders panicked. The enemy that had seemed invincible was falling apart. In the middle of the chaos, General Diallo's voice came over the radio. "Earth Fleet, this is Omega Command. We are honored to fight beside you." Admiral Okonkwo responded. "Omega Fleet, we are honored that you came home." "We never left home, Admiral. We just lived far away for a while." Captain Brennan's ship screamed past a Valori battleship, leaving a trail of explosions behind her. Her voice crackled over the channel. "Hey, Earth cousins, watch this." She flew directly at a Valori destroyer. Her ship's weapons fired continuously. At the last second, she pulled up so hard that any normal pilot would have blacked out. The destroyer behind her exploded. "Still alive," she reported. "Still fighting. That is what humans do." Commander Sithrak watched his fleet dying. He had never retreated in his life. He had never considered it possible. Now he considered it. "Commander," his first officer said, "we are losing ships faster than we can replace them. At this rate, we will be destroyed within 3 hours." "How?" Sithrak whispered. "How are they doing this?" His science officer answered quietly. "They are human, Commander. All of them. Just different kinds of human. And they are fighting together." Sithrak looked at the screen. He saw Earth ships and Omega ships moving in coordination, covering each other, protecting each other, dying for each other. That he had conquered 100 species. None of them had ever done this. None of them had ever come from across the galaxy to save their own kind. "Pull back," he ordered. "All ships, pull back to the outer system. We must regroup." The Valori fleet retreated. For the first time since the war began, they ran from humans. The Valori had landed ground troops before the space battle turned against them. 20,000 soldiers had reached the surface. Now they were trapped. They had expected easy victory. Instead, they found themselves facing something they did not understand. Omega Marines dropped from the sky in heavy pods. They hit the ground running, and when they ran, the earth shook. Sergeant Kofi Asani led a squad of 12 Omega soldiers into the ruins of Sydney. The city had been evacuated weeks ago. Now Valori troops were using it as a base. Kofi was 7 feet tall. He weighed 300 pounds, all of it muscle and dense bone. He could run 40 miles per hour and punch through metal. But that was not what made him dangerous. Civilians ahead, his scanner reported. Looks like a refugee group that did not make it out in time. Kofi changed direction immediately. Forget the enemy base. We protect the civilians first. His squad followed without question. They found the refugees in the basement of a collapsed building. 60 people, mostly children and elderly. A Valori patrol was closing in on them. The Valori had energy weapons and armor. They had 4 soldiers for every 1 Omega Marine. It did not matter. Kofi hit the first Valori so hard that the alien flew backward 20 feet. His squad moved like lightning, faster than the enemy could track. Within 90 seconds, the patrol was down, and a small boy stared up at Kofi with wide eyes. "Are you a robot?" Kofi knelt down to the child's level. "No, I am human, just like you. You do not look like me. My family lived far away for a long time. We grew a little different, but we are still the same inside." He put a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. "Cool me. We will take you somewhere safe." The refugees followed the Omega soldiers. Kofi carried 2 children who were too tired to walk. His squad surrounded the group like a living shield. When more Valori appeared, the Marines destroyed them without letting a single shot reach the civilians in orbit. The battle continued. Captain Rosabrennan's ship was damaged. Engines failing. Weapons at half power. She had been fighting for 6 hours straight. An in-Earth hospital ship appeared on her scanner, moving toward the planet with wounded soldiers. A Valori destroyer was closing in on it. "Distant thunder to hospital ship," Brennan called. "I'm coming to assist." "Negative, distant thunder. Your ship is too damaged. You cannot survive another engagement. Did I ask for your opinion?" She pushed her engines to maximum. Warning lights filled her bridge. Her crew looked at her with fear and trust. "Captain," her first officer said, "if we take another hit, we will lose the ship. Then we better not get hit." She flew distant thunder between the hospital ship and the destroyer. Her remaining weapons opened fire. The Valori vessel turned its guns toward her. For one moment, Brennan knew she was going to die. Then an Earth fighter squadron appeared from nowhere, firing everything they had at the destroyer. The enemy ship broke off its attack. "This is Earth Squadron 7. A voice crackled over the radio. "We have your back, Omega Captain. No one dies alone today." Brennan laughed, even as her ship shook from damage. "Appreciate the help, cousins. You came 200 light years for us. Flying a few thousand kilometers is nothing." The hospital ship escaped. So did Brennan. Barely. In space and on the ground, humans fought together. Earth soldiers were slower and weaker, but they never stopped. Omega soldiers were faster and stronger, but they never left anyone behind. Commander Sithrak watched from his flagship as his invasion fell apart. His ground troops were being destroyed by Omega Marines who seemed unstoppable. His fleet was taking losses it could not replace. And everywhere he looked, humans were protecting each other. An Omega pilot rammed his damaged fighter into a Valori gunship to save an Earth cruiser. An Earth medic ran into enemy fire to drag an Omega soldier to safety. A ground squad of mixed Earth and Omega troops held a position for 3 hours against overwhelming odds because there were children behind them. "They are insane," Sithrak said to his first officer. "They keep dying for each other. What is wrong with them?" "I do not know, Commander. We have never seen a species behave this way." Sithrak thought about the 100 worlds he had conquered. Every single species had broken eventually. They had surrendered. They had betrayed each other. They had given up. Humans gave up nothing. They surrendered nothing. They betrayed, no one died. And now there were 2 kinds of humans. One kind was stubborn. The other kind was stubborn and strong enough to punch through walls. "We cannot win this," Sithrak realized. "Even if we destroy their fleets, more will come. Even if we take their worlds, they will fight us in the ruins. Even if we break them, they will rebuild. What are your orders, Commander?" Sithrak looked at Earth one last time. Blue and green, and full of creatures who refused to know when they were beaten. "Pull all forces back," he said. "We are leaving this system." His first officer stared at him. "Leaving? We have never retreated from a campaign. We have never fought humans before." "Not really." Sithrak turned away from the screen. "There is a difference between a difficult enemy and an impossible enemy. Humans are impossible. They will never stop. And now they have proven that no matter how far apart they live, they will find each other and fight together." The Valori withdrawal began. Across the planet, people watched the enemy ships turn and run. They did not understand yet. They did not know that the war was ending. They only knew that the sky was clearing and the long nightmare was finally over. In Sydney, Sergeant Kofi Asani set down the children he had been carrying. Their mother ran to them, crying. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you for saving them." Kofi nodded. "That is what family does. But we are strangers. We have never met." He smiled. "You are human. I am human. That makes us family." He walked back to his squad. There was still work to do. There were still people to protect. But for the first time in a year, there was hope. 3 days after the battle, it rained in Shanghai for the first time in months. David stood outside the shelter with Lily in his arms, watching the water fall from sky that was finally clear. No Vailoris cheaps, no weapons fire, just clouds and rain and the smell of wet earth. "Daddy," Lily said, "is it over?" "Yes, sweetheart, it is over." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "I told you someone would come." David held her tighter. He did not trust his voice to respond. Across the world, people emerged from their hiding places. They stepped into streets they had not walked in months. They looked up at skies they had not seen without fear in almost a year. They cried. They laughed. They held each other. The war was over. In orbit, the Earth and Omega fleets floated side by side. Damaged ships limped toward repair stations. Rescue teams searched for survivors. Medics worked around the clock. Admiral Okonkwo and General Diallo met face to face for the first time aboard the last stand. When the airlock opened and Diallo stepped through, Okonkwo was struck by how different he looked. Taller, broader, stronger. And yet when he smiled, he looked exactly like every human she had ever known. "Admiral," he said, extending his hand. "It is an honor." She shook it. His grip was strong but gentle. "The honor is mine, General. You saved us. We saved each other." They walked through the ship together. Earth crew members stared at Diallo with wonder. He was human, but he was also something new, something that showed what humanity could become. "Your people are remarkable," Okonkwo said. "I watched your pilots fly maneuvers that should have killed them. 200 years of evolution on a harsh world. Our bodies adapted. Our reflexes improved. Our bones grew dense enough to handle forces that would break normal humans." Diallo paused. "But we are not better than you, Admiral. Just different." "Different how?" "We are stronger, faster. But you have something we lost." "What is that?" "Gentleness. Softness. The ability to be weak and still survive." He looked out a window at Earth below. "We became hard because we had to. You stayed soft because you could. Both have value. On the planet's surface, funerals were held for the fallen. Earth soldiers and Omega soldiers were buried side by side. They had died together. They would rest together. Captain Rosa Brennan stood at one of the graves. It belonged to her first officer, who had died when Distant Thunder took its final hit. She had known him for 20 years. An Earth pilot approached her. Young, nervous. He had been part of Squadron 7, the group that had saved her ship. "Captain," he said, "I wanted to say I am sorry. About your crew. Thank you. I also wanted to say thank you. For coming. For fighting for us." Brennan looked at him. He was thin and small by Omega standards. His hands probably could not crush metal. His body probably could not survive a high G turn. But he had flown into enemy fire to save her anyway. "You came for me too," she said. "You and your squadron. You could have stayed safe, but you did not. Of course not. You were one of us." Brennan felt something warm in her chest. "Yes, I suppose I was." Commander Sithrak's final transmission reached Earth 1 week after the retreat. It was not addressed to any government or military. It was addressed to all of humanity. I have conquered 100 species, his voice said. They all surrendered when hope was lost. They all betrayed their own kind to survive. They all broke. You did not break. When your world was dying, you sent a message into empty space. And from across the stars, your own kind came to die beside you. This is something I have never seen, something the Dominion has never faced. We are not retreating because you defeated us. We are retreating because we finally understand what you are. You are a species that will never abandon itself. You will cross any distance, fight any enemy, and die any death for each other. We cannot conquer that. No one can. The Valori Dominion will not return to your space. We will tell others of our kind to stay away as well. Not because we fear your weapons, because we fear what you will become if we give you a reason to unite. Go in peace, humans, and may we never meet again. The message ended in the years that followed. Earth and Omega began to merge. Omega technology helped rebuild the destroyed cities. Earth culture helped soften the hard edges of Omega society. Children were born who carried genes from both populations. Dr. Samuel Webb, who had first detected Earth's distress call, lived long enough to see the first generation of mixed children grow up. They were stronger than Earth humans and gentler than Omega humans. They had the best of both worlds. This is what we were always meant to be, he said before he died. Not Earth humans or Omega humans, just humans, together. 50 years after the war, the distinction between the two populations had almost disappeared. There were no more Earthborn or Omega-born. There was only humanity, stronger, Kinda, united. And when humanity finally built ships that could travel to other stars, they went not as conquerors, but as explorers. They found other species. Some were strong, some were weak, some were afraid. All of them. Humanity offered the same thing, friendship, because humans had learned something in the war against the Valori. They had learned that the galaxy was vast and dark and full of danger. They had learned that no species could survive alone. And they had learned that when family calls, family answers. That always in a small park in Shanghai, there's a statue of a candle. It was built to remember the night when humanity refused to surrender. When billions of people lit flames in the darkness and said, "We are still here." Every year on the anniversary of the victory, people gather at the statue. Earthborn and Omega-born, old soldiers and young children. They light candles and tell stories and remember. And in the center of the crowd, two old people always stand together. Lily, now grown with grandchildren of her own, and Kofi, the Omega Marine who carried her to safety when she was 6 years old. They are family. They have always been family. That is the human way.